Hello and welcome back to the part two of the interview with Cody Faust from the Freedom Collective. Let's dive back into a quick introduction so you know who he is and what he's about, and then right back into the interview part two, starting off with diving deep into unlocking the human potential and supernatural powers. I have a passion for decentralized freedom. That's a statement from the visionary voice that is my incredible guest today. He's the creator and the architect of the private community-owned economy called the Atlantis Community. And that is in benefit of all members through fusing financial mastery with spiritual awakening. Atlantis is bridging the gap between spiritual expansion and financial prosperity. They achieve this through a focus on the crypto and forex markets and digital entrepreneurship overall, and by teaching personal evolution into embodied resilience and spiritual growth. The private community economy serves to cover living expenses and basic needs at a minimum, my guest states very humbly. The entrepreneur and speaker also co-creates events through the community like the Ancient Future Festival in Canada in September 24, where online and offline experiences are united to help build stronger connections. My guest has a history of 15 plus years in studying and exploring the power of deep consciousness, energetics, and quantum fieldwork to obtain personal growth, alongside expertise in marketing and coaching. Additionally, he has delved deep into the world of cryptocurrency, day trading, and the opportunities of blockchain technology for 8 years ongoing, creating his own financial freedom. He is from the US, currently living in Guatemala, and enjoys traveling the world whenever he likes, living out his own form of decentralized freedom. Please warmly welcome this visionary, Cody Faust, aka Zellar.
Hi. What is next in the evolution? Like, it's not even Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a stepping stone. Bitcoin just allows us to get our freedom back financially because no government owns it. And that's why all the media has, said, oh, it's a scam and it's used by thugs and all this stuff. But it's like who controls the media? Who funds them? And the same people that fund the media telling you that Bitcoin is a scam are the same investment companies loading up on Bitcoin in the background. So it's funny to see. But Bitcoin is powerful, and I really believe in it because it exists separate from the internet. But yeah, it's not the highest frequency of interacting energetically. Um, yeah,
That is a beautiful pathway over to something that I would love to bring in here as well. Because when I listened to a live on Instagram of you, like just a day or 2 days ago, you guys were tapping into superhuman powers and becoming supernatural, and even taking it beyond the concept of, you guys, when you're listening, you heard about or maybe read the book by Joe Dispenza, right? Being supernatural. But I feel what you tapped into is beyond that. And that resonated a lot with myself as well. So from my end, I'm curious to hear your version of that. That means, when I'm teaching people, I always teach them in the evolution. It's like you got a human side that you need to master in a better way, which is then your body, your nervous system, your brain, your emotions, all of that stuff, so that then you can remember and reactivate
right. So I got another
what
call.
I'm calling the soul side, right? And that is wisdom in your DNA, but also all of the other skills, channels, supernatural abilities in a way that I feel we all have. And that will be a beautiful way. And probably that leads into what you just said. There will be a more advanced way in how we communicate, how we are, how we live together at some point. So I'd love to hear your take. For me, actually, as far as I've come so far, it's a lot of light languages that I can channel and that I can
Beautiful.
transmit information through, right? And I've seen a lot of different varieties of supernatural skills, if you want. So I'm
Yeah.
curious to hear what your experience on that is and what your take
Yeah.
in the
Yeah,
future.
well, to me, I think these are actually more natural. I think it's supernatural to not tap into your innate abilities. So um, it should be normal, and we're coming back online. And the reason why it hasn't been normal is because of education or lack thereof. And food also has played a pretty intense role, and other things. So the way to put it simply, for someone who may not be able to wrap their mind around the quote supernatural abilities, is to look at quantum physics And quantum physics on the base level can help you to understand how all these things are possible. So the basic level is that there is a quantum field, that this space around us is not just empty space. It's not just air and oxygen and carbon, whatever's in the air. It is there is a the quantum field is alive. It's an energetic thing. And actually quantum physics proves and shows that even physical matter isn't actually physical, it's just an idea. So everything is energy. And I'm not just these are studies that I've read. I'm trying to, because I can talk about like the things that I've experienced, and people will be like, oh no, you're crazy, that's absolutely crazy, this guy's on drugs. But when we actually talk about the things that are connected to scientific study, it makes it easier for people to understand. But then I would also ask you, and not you, but everyone listening, to look at all the scientific studies that prove something or don't prove something, and ask who funded that, and why would they benefit from the outcome that it was. But beyond the point, so this quantum field is something that is all around us, and we are in it. So everything is connected. Quantum entanglement proves that anything can be connected in relative of distance, in an infinite distance. So what that means, so if I were to say, let's talk about remote viewing, for instance. um, Remote viewing is the idea of being able to project your awareness to somewhere that your physical body is not, and being able to witness what's going on in that space. And so if I were to say, hey, if I called up a friend, I said, hey, I can see you right now, I just remote viewed and I saw you were out in the garden, like, and like she might freak out. Oh, that's witchcraft, without education. But when you bring in quantum entanglement, and you bring in the whole idea of the quantum field and everything, it makes it much more digestible, the reality. Okay. So the abilities that, when I say they're innate, we're they are innate. These are all these things are things that people can do. Remote viewing, and feeling other people's emotions, being psychic, if you will, being able to see the future, not be bound by time. These are natural ways of being. It's just that if you don't feel that it's natural, then the society that you grew up in, like myself, um, didn't educate you on the truth, you know? And um, John D. Rockefeller is quoted as saying, he's a really big reason why the U.S. is the way it is today. He funded a lot of churches. He funded schools. He funded most of the government. He had more money than the government at some point. But he said, I want a nation of workers, not of thinkers. So all these things that I'm saying are natural and are part of our actual being. The only reason for those of you that might feel that it's not is because you haven't been educated on the truth. That's all. So we could go any way with this. We could talk about, how do I cultivate these, or what are different abilities to be experienced? I don't know. What do you feel?
What is your personal experience? What is the thing that you figured out for yourself? Something that is in your innate ability that you regained or rediscovered, that excites you most, or where you were most like, oh my goodness, this is cool that I have regained this. What
Totally.
inspires you, or what excites you most?
Yeah, it grows. My energetic awareness grows every day. So when I say energetic awareness, I'm saying quantum field or fourth dimensional awareness. All dimensions exist in the same spot. Some people have an idea that you have to like teleport some other place to go to another dimension. They're all here. The fourth dimensional aspect is just like it's another sense, if you will. You have your five physical senses, but it's the sixth sense, right? And the more that I am open and I cultivate that, the more it expands. So energetic awareness has led to many things for me. When I was a child, I used to complain to my parents that at night I would see shadow people, I called them. And I was like 3, 4, 5, and I can see now it was that they were people who had died, who had regrets or whatever, and they didn't have the ability to communicate with their loved ones, their regrets, but they could see that I was able to see them and feel them, so they'd come to me to try to communicate. And there was other things as well, but I would tell them that, and my parents were like, "This kid's crazy," like put me on medication or just took me to counselors, whatever. And so I lost that over time, and that's one of the things that I've regained is the ability to see, but more so I feel. Um, I didn't know when I was a child how to clear my energetic space or to brush my teeth energetically, I like to say. So that allowed these beings or entities or spirits to come into my space without my direct permission. But now I am able to just my day to day. If I'm out in public, it can be really draining because I can look at someone and I can feel everything that they're feeling. If I, especially the more focus I put into it, I've been pretty good at learning to tune out and tune my consciousness to other things. But if I focus on someone, I can feel everything they're feeling. If they have disease in their body, I'll get sometimes like pains or whatever in like a knee or something, or I will if they have some type of trauma or something that I can see in some people the way they walk, even that the weight of their thoughts has changed the way that their body functions, and all this processing is going on in my mind in a moment, but with every single person that I'm walking by. And so I tend to be more of a homebody, but it's also powerful to cultivate resilience and yeah. So it's kind of been intense because the more I cultivate myself, the louder that stuff is. It just becomes natural reality to like see people's thoughts, or to know, see them in my mind before they say them, or their words before they say them. um yeah, how I've cultivated too, I think this is an important one. And this is an important message too, that really consciousness is energy. It's all it is. Consciousness is energy. So the energy that usually most people know about or cultivate, that we bring in with every breath, let's say, is chi or prana or life force. It's not the only energy. The more of this chi, prana, or life force that we cultivate, the more consciousness we will have. So this is why when you do breath work, if you do holotropic breath work, you can have a psychedelic experience. Psychedelic is just you opening you up to what's actually already there. What happened is you brought enough consciousness into your system to be able to witness all the things that are there. So if you consistently are filling your cup energetically, then these abilities will become more and more dialed in, more and more aware, more and more present in your space. And also, this is the important part of the message, is that the lack of this chi or prana or life force is, in my opinion, the direct cause of 90, maybe even 100% of depression and anxiety. Um,
And physical diseases then, which are the result afterwards.
yeah,
100%. I would totally agree to that. So thank you for sending that message out to slowly start to rounding this off a little bit. Can you say in like one or two sentences, people I bet are listening and being fascinated. Some of them will be completely following along, right? Because they're also in this space, moving around. And
yeah.
some of you guys listening might be like, oh my goodness, this is all so exciting, but I have to re-listen to really capture it all.
There's so
So
much we bounce all over.
can you say like in one or two sentences, this whole evolution and the expansion of the consciousness and, all of that, what is the benefit of that for me? Like, what enables it me to? Is that coming
Mm.
back to live in a freer life, or would you classify that as something else?
Yeah, I'm gonna give the direct answer, and the direct answer is freedom or death. And
Mm.
when I say this, what I mean is, let's look at the highest way we can expand, and that's spiritually. If we don't choose to consistently expand spiritually or choose higher freedom spiritually, eventually our essence will be recycled, um, and turn into something else. Use it or lose it. God is efficient. The universe, the creative source, is efficient. And if you've been given this gift of consciousness, of awareness, this spark to be able to even hear these words and think about them, to be able to think about yourself and what it means to be in a body. If you don't cultivate that, it will be recycled. So that's the direct answer. And people can get into like, what does that mean? To me, what that means is our on a soul essence. We have a soul. People call it an individual essence, and that's the essence that all energy, everything is eternal. Energy doesn't die. God, we are a spark of, just like the tree. Everything is of the creator, of the same source. That essence never dies, but our individuality can definitely die. So if we don't choose to expand our consciousness, our essence will be recycled, much like an apple falling from an apple tree and rotting and getting absorbed into the ground to fuel the tree to create new apples. Some apples, though, will take root and become and grow into their own apple tree.
I love that reply of yours because it gives people something to ponder about, which I always love because that goes beyond just feeding someone with information, consuming wise, but rather providing an opportunity to reflect and come to their own truth, and from that take the next growth step. So thank you so much for putting it out exactly the way that you did. Before I want to come to the last three questions that I'm asking all of my beautiful guests here, I'm really curious for one last thing and see whatever comes up for you that you feel like sharing. The beautiful, conscious, expanded version of you that I have the privilege to be with right now. Who was that version of Cody or Zellar before you started that journey? Like, was there one initial spark for you to embark this, or has this been like a whole process that you kind of knew when you just shared about your childhood, and that you always had this awareness of, okay, someday there'll be something,
Yeah.
or how did that turn out?
Yeah, it's consistently growing. So, and I will, that's the powerful thing, is we can continue to grow forever. So wherever I'm at now is just a little flash compared to where we'll be. And, you could put in time 1,000 years or whatever. Yeah, I know that I'm blessed. When I grew up, I didn't have any religion. My parents didn't force any religion on me or require me to go to any church or anything, which was great. My childhood, though, was very hectic and very chaotic and very intense, and so that caused me, between not being having religion forced on me and because my childhood was intense, I had to learn to take care of myself in all ways, and which was great. It allowed me to really go deep and really explore what does life mean, and what is all this, why is all this necessary, and what is necessary, and what is English, and all of it. um so I'm glad to not have those like pre-programs from my childhood or whatever to that kind of force me in one direction. I have so many friends that they're doctors, or they're doing whatever because their parents said they have to do it, and their parents are super religious, and if they don't follow the religion either, then they're, yeah. So I remember probably the first real memory that I had of really going for consciousness was, I've always believed in God. I think from when I was a kid, my parents would always say, like, they wouldn't talk about God really, but they like reference God. So they weren't atheists. But I I remember that when my dog died when I was like 12 or 13, Jake, I grew up with him. My parents got him when I was 1, so I grew up with this dog my whole life basically at that point. And I was so sad. I was just destroyed because the dog, and I was so mad because they could have found out before what had happened, the cancer he had, and like could have fixed it. And I was just so angry and blaming everyone. And then I remember when I was a kid seeing the shadow people, as I mentioned. I'm like, okay, well, I bet I could go see him, the dog. And so I went in as a 13-year-old and I started studying how to astral project. And I learned to meditate in a room temperature bath water. And I got really good at astral projecting, at leaving my body to go hang out with my dog.
Wow.
and it could be all made up in my mind, for who knows, but I had very vivid experiences of just like running through a field with the dog and just like taking a nap and this sunrise or sunset, hanging out. We just had the best time. He's like my best friend. So that led to more, just like that alone. It took me a little while to like look at what I was doing. But I also remember when I was 15, I was fascinated with Tibetan Buddhism, and I was
Mhm.
so fascinated with it that I started to like practice the language, and I have like journals probably somewhere where I was like writing out the letters and trying to learn to pronounce it. And I never could figure out why. And yeah, then a few years pass. I'm kind of going through this story with like random details, but I've just always been fascinated by consciousness and by um more of energy. It's like things that have pulled me. So I was Mormon for a little while. I read the Quran many times. I was super obsessed with studying the Quran for a while. I was super obsessed with studying the Torah. I was Hindu for like 3.5 years. I've read the Bhagavad Gita like at least 9 times, the Ramayana at least 8 times. I've read the Bible at least 12 times. I've read the Book of Mormon at least 7 times, 6 or 7 probably. I've read the Quran's probably like 3 or 4 is a little more intense for me. And all of these things are like merit badges of consciousness for me. Like I find that each one of them, when I completed the cycle, if you will. So when I went through the full cycle of being Mormon and learning everything that I needed to learn from that, that allowed me to be consciously at another level to prepare myself for what was next. So by being, Christian and Mormon for a little bit, that prepared me spiritually to build some strength to be Hindu for a bit. And then that built some strength for me to get to the next practices. And yeah, who was I? Yeah, very like an NPC, as kids would say, like totally. I just as a kid, and I have flashes of consciousness. Like I was saying, I went to try to go astral project to hang out with my dog, or I was studying Tibetan Buddhism when I was younger. I think that it really fully budded and became where it's most of the time. Um, Probably in like 2017, 2018, around there. I went to India in 2017, and I went to the temple that Ram Dass had gone to, and the time I'd went, it was perfect timing. I got to meet all of Ram Dass's crew. They hadn't been to India in like 10 years, but like Krishna Das and Raghu Marcus, they were all there, and I didn't know who they were. I'd never heard of Ram Dass until after being around them, and that that's around the time where I feel like going to the temple, interacting with them, and getting into Hinduism, where I feel like I've been awake consistently. You know, before that was just flashes. I had a lot of psychedelic experiences before that, and it's just like flashes of consciousness, but I always come back down. But when I really started to cultivate naturally, that's where I was able to feel awake or feel aware, feel like I'm here. And because there's so many times, I'm wrapping the thought up, I promise, but there's so many times where like even driving a long drive, people can probably relate, where you just like you get in the car and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I'm home. How the heck, this is a 2 hour drive, what the heck? And that's how most people live their entire life. And so the when I feel, it's been about since 2017 where I feel like 80 to 90% of the time I'm like here, present. So
Thank you for sharing all of that. And I have two things that come through for me for that, which one thing is I find it very fascinating in a very positive way that you've been through all the things, all the mini setups of how everything was, guided you into allowing yourself to follow what fascinated you from a rather young age, right? So that you allow it yourself, and that somehow you managed through whatever the outer circumstances were to be so passionate and so curious that you got to the point that you needed to follow that, and that you actually did, right? And the other thing is, Well, there's two things. For people who are listening, who followed along all of the steps that you just shared, and for you, it was a lot connected to the different religions and the concepts behind that, to really dive into it, to study it, to understand. If you're listening now, I want you to detach just from the idea of these religions, but understand what it was that he did. He allowed to explore and to follow what sparked interest every time up to the point where he felt it was completed and he had learned everything that he needed to learn from that step. And
Yeah.
this is the concept that I want to give out to everyone. Allow yourself to follow that, what fascinates you, and let go another step of all of the what you should be doing and how your CV should look like. And, this is all so past, right? Allow to be guided into exactly the things that you're supposed to learn, because they will take you back to remembering who you really are. And the other thing I feel, that's what I want to ask you about, is my assumption, see if that goes in a direction that resonates. Because when I look at visionary people, and we've talked a little bit about that in the conversation up front, right? I know from own experience, from your story a little bit, from people I've worked with, usually when somebody gets to the state of these really new extraordinary ideas and capturing all of that, they were able to only reactivate and reaccess this because something with adversity has happened some point in their life, sometimes even multiple things, or traumatic things, adverse things happened one way or the other, that then caused them to explore the other side. While having said this, usually, and this is what fascinated me about your story, there is a down, like a shadow side, if you want, also to the concept of freedom, which is, it has all the amazing aspects, but if we outbalance, we go over too much into that, it is a running away from, right? And usually it leads to, on the other side, belonging and trust issues in that individual. And I know from experience myself. So from listening to you, I would think, or what I'm getting, that all of the studies that you allowed to follow through for you provided some sense of understanding and capturing the belonging part, so that the wounded shadow part from that potentially has been there at some point as well, could recover while you were doing these studies and experiencing and exploring, which
Mhm.
then maybe has never led you to sort of crash into a classic trauma situation of being into deep depression, or however else it could turn up. Does that resonate somehow?
Oh yeah, well, I've been through all that. I think I don't know. I think if I joke with my friends that if life's a video game, I chose hard mode, like expert.
Oh, I
um,
can resonate.
yeah, and but yeah, I think that's important. Every hardship has made me a more resilient human in one aspect or another, and it's a purification. Like the really all hardship comes from attachment to one thing or another, I think. So if we're doing what we're passionate about but detached about results, like it's really empowering. And yeah, so I through each of these studies or practices, whether it was studying and practicing Christianity or Hinduism or Tibetan Buddhism or studying Islam, each of them taught me things about God, and each of them healed an aspect of my being. And the thing that I find funny about religions is they like to say, like pointing at the big toe of God and saying, "This is the truth. This is." It's always pointing the finger, like, "This is the full truth." Like, well, you're both right. So I see that there. I mean, in reality, if God exists, there's only one. So everyone's talking about that same being, and if they're not talking about that same creator, then they're talking about something that's not the creator, and is a distortion. Could be something pretending to be a god. Um, yeah. So as long as we keep our prayer for truth, God show me truth, and be willing and open to accept that the truth might look completely different than how you've set your whole life up. You expect your whole life to be. So being super open to how that can show up, um, and saying, and living that, living fully, truth and only truth. If anyone around you is a liar, then get them out of your life. If you're practicing dishonesty, like all that, fix it, shift it, change it. And when you will, just by your being, you will align with truth, the truth of our creation, the truth of this world, the truth of all of it. It'll resonate because that's the frequency that you're operating at, like a radio station. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I love that what you say, and I feel we could keep talking for hours. So
Yeah.
we might need to come back for another conversation. For today, I'm super grateful. Thank you for sharing all this wisdom with me and with the audience. So I would love to just come to these three questions. It's like a quick game. You may have seen or heard that somewhere else. It's three quick questions. Just shoot whatever comes up first.
Okay.
And then we have a beautiful closing. Everyone who's listening, I meant what I said. You may want to re-listen to this because there was a lot of depth and there was a lot of width as well. So please allow yourself to just listen to it a second time or to a certain part of it a second time
Mm.
because you will hear it differently every time. It is really amazing how this can be serving in a way for your path. Because if you found this now, there'll be a reason that this has found you. So trust and follow that curiosity. So let's go to the questions. Number one, the name of the podcast is Trust to Disrupt. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, I love that. Trust or transparency is like the new currency of the world, I think, and so I value things in trust and transparency, and trusting, yeah, being like fully going in this system, this world that we're in, that most people are subscribing to, doesn't work. It's not working. So many hungry people. There's 200 million empty homes in the United States, vacant homes, abandoned, but only 20 million homeless people. Come on. So yeah, that I love that. That all needs to be disrupted. It's not working. And trusting our being, trusting truth is showing that that doesn't work and that there is a better way. And so be willing to break it, be willing to stand up for what you believe, no matter what anyone else is saying.
Beautiful. Thank you. Number two, who else do you feel needs to be on this podcast in this conversation? Any name that you can think of right
Ooh.
now?
Yeah, I mean, I've got like five people come to mind. Let's see. Devin, the Black Airbender, he's a good one. And also Adrian, she's on my team. Devin's a good friend, and Black Airbender is his Instagram. Adrian, her Instagram is the Evolution Oracle. I was live with her on Instagram yesterday. She's powerful. And then also the other guy I was live with as well, Ricky, Dr. Rishi. He he's not as good with podcasting, but I think Adrian and Devin would be really powerful to share the message and a different point of view of this message.
Amazing. Anything you want to add? Or is that complete for that question?
Yeah, yeah. I think for now, it's pretty.
Amazing. Last question. Your best advice or impulse to every visionary future maker out there?
Yeah. Stop trying to do it yourself. For real. Like there are many people out there that have the same vision, the same knowing that you do, and we will all accomplish 1,000 times more if we work together and let go of ego. Atlantis was my brand. That was my thing. And and when I realized it actually doesn't serve, by holding on, I had this attachment to it, by holding on to it, we were not flowing the energy towards the things that actually are serving everyone. So attachment to things like that, like having that ego, by me being able to let go of like mine is ours and what is best for we, has brought so much momentum, has brought so much money, has brought so much progress into everything that we're doing. So that's the biggest thing I would say, is if you really see the world and you want to impact it, as smart as you are, and being able to come to the conclusions you have to be able to create something to change the world, you still have to operate in the world. And so being able to connect with others who have the same intentions, you'll get a much better viewpoint and much more momentum towards what you're actually doing. Um, yeah, when two or more have gathered the same intentions, right? There's a lot of symbology as well. You can go into occult sciences as well that teach all about this. That two minds together with the same intention as it's equal to four people working on something separately, and it keeps compounding. And then three people is equal to like 8 or 9, something like that. So this is measured. Yeah, stop doing it alone. It's the biggest thing.
Power of community. I love that as a closing word. Thank you so much. So everyone listening to this, if you like this, if you enjoyed this, if you got inspired, please go and check on Instagram and on the website. Go follow Cody and Zellar on the Ascended Trader. Check out the Atlantis community, also the new coming website. We're all linking this in the show notes. Check out if you want to maybe join the master, the membership that is already out there, and then also the events that keep coming up, right? So if you want to connect, you heard how and where to go. So just go. Keep listening to this, and also give the podcast a like, subscribe, wherever you're listening to this. Send it to a friend who needs to hear this, and come back next for the next episode. And then we'll see you again.
Thank you, Judith.